genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. And thank you to my audience for returning for this 6th season. Part of why I love you is because you've seen who we are. We use your dead as vessels, and we're here. Rocking our corpse bodies. Just like my guest, Connor Buhagiar. So, Connor, is Dark City a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
Should be, must be, morally imperative that it be remade.
Great.
Post-haste.
Perfect. Good. Connor, welcome so much to Ideal Remake. I didn't throw anything or drop anything.
Hey, it's just a pen, no big deal, and thank you for having me on.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, and then I'm going to ask you about your history with the movie.
Sure. Union organizer by day. By weekends, I do MIG-TIG welding as extra side jobs. History with the movie, my mom let me stay up way too late on a Friday night, and we randomly had, I think it was Encore. She splurged for the big cable package. So,
Ooh.
yeah, so I was able to watch, at the age of 8, Dark City. And I remember in the first half just thinking, this is the scariest or like most mind-bending thing I'd ever seen. And I was probably too young to understand it, but I knew I had to go back to it. So I think I rewatched it as like a 15-year-old. Of course, after The Matrix came out, thinking like on that same level of just absolute amazement at the sort of depth of the speculation.
I don't think I processed that this came out before The Matrix.
Bro, they shared sets with The Matrix, and yeah, it was like released a year before. The Matrix reused some of its sets, and they were filmed in Australia for the same reason, to save money.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I had no idea. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's. I think they mention it on the Matrix commentary where Joel Silver's like, "Oh yeah, we have to move this to Australia because we can't afford the labor cost of it."
Okay. Rad.
Yeah,
because like you watch this and like the Matrix similarities are so obvious and apparent.
Yep.
But then like honestly, a lot of the CGI in this movie I thought like was really cool and held up. Like when the city starts shifting and moving and you're like, whoa.
Because it was practical. Like it was literally like these are clearly like individual pieces, and pretty much all the big set piece stuff was done. It wasn't by Phil Tippett, but by his apprentices in that like Long John Carpenter line. So all like the apartment buildings were associated with him, and the bigger stuff that aged more poorly, like the little like energy vampire dailies, was what was done on computer.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. I thought it was all computer, but if it was practical, that's so much more impressive. That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
So when I asked you to be on the show, you immediately went to Dark City, and I guess the obvious question follow-up to that is, like, how often are you thinking about this movie that this is the one that you immediately picked?
At least, I'd say I think about Dark City 2 times a week. And
nice.
That's not the upper bound of how frequently I think about movies, but the fact that it was so ambitious and crossing genres at a time when crossing genres was much less commonplace. Because you basically get a fake out for the first, 45, 50 minutes? You think it's a neo-noir murder mystery. And then it turns into a speculative sci-fi allegory about the nature of the human soul?
Well, a little bit. Like, I wasn't expecting a speculative nature into the nature of the human soul. I was expecting a lot more sci-fi. I realized after I gave Amazon my $3 to rent the movie that I'd gotten just like kind of the basic version, and there's a longer director's cut. So I did not watch the director's cut.
Without that introductory voiceover.
The director's cut doesn't have that.
Yeah.
See, that's kind of what guided me, because I was like, oh, okay, I kind of know what I'm in for with this introductory voiceover. And I'm hearing what Dr. Daniel Schraber is like, I have betrayed humanity.
Yeah.
I go in and I steal a soul from one body and I put it in another. Yeah. Everyone is memories.
Yeah. New Line UK made Alex Proyas add that in post. They were like, nobody's going to get it. So they Blade Runnered him.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So then you will know better than I did. What else am I missing from that 11-minute director's cut? Like, what else is in that version that I did not see?
It's primarily fleshed out Bumstead and his question of, like, if you remember, he poses like, I'm being punished, aren't I? After, like, putting down the accordion. We get little extra bits with the strangers, and if I'm recalling correctly, we get an Emma by herself scene, which was cut mostly just for, like, redundancy purposes.
Fair enough. I mean, what would she even do? Just look sadder?
Yeah. She has to look really, really contemplative about being a lounge singer. It's a tall order.
I guess. All right. Fair enough. Okay. This was obviously my first watch of the movie, and it was very weird, but it was... I went in with, like, no expectations. I knew nothing about what this movie was about.
Great. Good for you.
Yeah, and so I just got to, like, go for the ride of just, like, the craziness. And part of the thing that I'm going to want to do with our remake is it starts introducing a lot of ideas that are really cool and interesting, but then it doesn't keep following through on those ideas a lot. Like, I referenced it in the intro that I did where we use your dead as vessels.
Yeah.
And, like, just that was really interesting.
That's a movie.
I thought, yeah, that's a movie on its own. Especially because, like, in this movie, all of the strangers, all of the, like, weird aliens who don't completely understand us and who we don't completely understand are all just, like, weird, bald white guys.
Yeah. They're pale androgynes who are totally shorn. There's one child, and they're all men, if I recall. I don't remember a single woman.
Right, exactly. And the one child, if anything, makes it worse.
That was awesome. Like,
the child's weird and freaky.
Yeah.
But it's entirely, like, incoherent to the point they're trying to make of, like, the child still behaves in a childlike way when they're just inhabiting a dead body. And it's just, like, it doesn't behave like any of the other strangers.
Internally inconsistent, I see.
Yeah, that's the issue. And so, like, for me, I wanted a lot more body switching. Like, they do it once. At the beginning of the movie, as John Murdoch is leaving the hotel room where he wakes up and finds the dead body, he leaves and the concierge says a line to him, is like, oh, well, you're 3 weeks overdue and this, that, and the other thing.
Cash on the barrelhead, yeah.
Yeah. And then he leaves, and then in a scene later, there's another guy doing those exact same lines.
Yeah.
And that's the only time that happens. And that's the part where I was like, I don't know what just happened. That's so weird. Right. But it only happens that once, and I wanted that to be happening all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't do this in my casting because that would have been insane. But, like, I want Inspector Frank Bumstead to be 3 or 4 different people over the course of the movie. And the only way we can tell that it's that it's Bumstead is based on the, like, costume that the person's wearing.
Yeah, same trench coat or whatever.
Yeah. And, like, we literally have May, the sex worker who saves Murdoch at the
automat.
Thank you.
The sad food dispensary that only existed in 1945 to 1948.
Well, yeah, but it's also the automat, and I'm like, but in my head, automat's like a laundry service.
Yep.
So it's like you go to get your laundry, but you also go to get a sandwich.
It's one of those neologisms that didn't survive the Cold War era.
Very much.
They were just like, we gotta sweep this one under the rug. It's a downer.
But, like, we have this character of May who's then killed.
Yeah.
But, like, then that makes her a dead body, which means that she could be possessed by one of the strangers.
Yes.
And that doesn't happen.
Yes. Within the internal, like, secondary logic of the power system, would just inhabiting the body also give them her memories? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. But it's her body in a completely different role.
Right.
Like, I mean, obviously this is after Mr. Hand got John Murdoch's memories, but, like, if she'd been killed and then she became, like, the person who became inhabited by Mr. Hand, who then got the memory, like, you could do all these extra, like, different things of, like, I never felt completely wrong-footed, and I felt like you could totally Memento this and just be like, oh man, I don't understand what the fuck's going on. Yeah,
you if you wanted to, you could make the audience question reality. I've heard the Dark City described by, like, the eggheads in, like, The Village Voice as, like, a rehash of too many sci-fi tropes, especially Metropolis, which I don't pretend to understand, but I think he elected to go in so many directions that it prevented him from taking a deep dive into one, which is what you're pitching, and I think is really smart.
Well, let's take a step back. Let's go through the movie briefly as it exists, because I imagine some people listening right now have not seen Dark City.
I'm in.
So, how does Dark City begin? With or without the opening monologue? How, in your idealized version of we're telling people the story, how do you begin telling them about Dark City?
A man wakes up in the most cinematic noir bathroom I have ever seen in my life, with
Yes,
no
true.
memory of who he is or how he got there.
Yes. And he finds a little trickle of blood from the center of his forehead between his eyebrows.
Yes.
And he walks out and finds a dead lady there.
First, he finds a goldfish, which he heroically saves and puts in the toilet.
In the bathtub or the toilet?
It just looks like a vat of water. In the script, it was toilet, but it could be bathtub.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, he's disoriented and he knocks over the goldfish bowl, but he saves the goldfish and puts it in the toilet.
Yeah.
And then finds the dead body and then kind of like goes wandering around, and we're starting to discover, and has no memory of who he is.
Right.
As he's leaving the hotel, this concierge is like, "You've paid for 3 weeks. Your 3 weeks are up." Rah!
Yes. And significantly, he finds a lot of stuff he doesn't recognize when he's clothing himself, because he wakes up half naked or fully naked,
Completely naked.
including like a key to a house that he doesn't recognize, the domicile. Mm-hmm. And as he's about to leave, we get a shot of these like pale corpse-looking beings walking down a hallway, basically in hot pursuit of him.
Yeah, but he gets a call from a mysterious person who turns out to be Dr. Daniel Schreiber, basically saying, "They're after you. They know you're there. Get out of there." And he's like, "Oh, okay, Morpheus. I mean, a mysterious stranger.
Yeah,
I'll get out of here while these carbon copies of each other come after me, and I don't understand their presence.
I'll get out of here before these not agents apprehend me and take me back to the blue pill world."
Exactly. And so he goes on the run, and he gets told that he left his wallet at the automat.
Right.
He goes to retrieve it, and that's where he finds his ID, who he is, all that information.
And he retrieves it by...
using his mental powers to open the door.
Which surprise he has. He has some form of limited telekinesis, where if he focuses hard enough, we get a little, like, water ripple effect on screen. So the wall is trapped behind the automat little door. He doesn't have any change to open it up, but he uses telekinesis, opens it up, and finds, among other things, his picture of a woman, who we later found out is his wife, Emma, the lounge singer.
And I'm going to go back and make a correction, because we will later find out that it's not telekinesis, it is reality bending, which is a different superpower.
Okay, nerd.
Yeah, I'm going to be a nerd about it.
Yeah, that's airbending. It's not waterbending. They're different skill sets, bro.
They are. I mean, he's bending reality. Like, he can shape and manipulate reality, which includes telekinesis, and telekinesis wouldn't include those sorts of things.
This is like the every square is a rectangle type deal?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. I beg forgiveness.
Yeah. So he goes and... to get out of the automat, some cops are like, "Hey, buddy, what you doing?" And he's like, "No, nothing, man. I don't know. I don't even know my name." And he ends up getting saved by the sex worker named May, who kind of like takes him back to her place.
By the way, the most wholesome woman I've ever seen on screen.
Seriously.
She's just so nice.
Just like the nicest person. And then she like gets him back and is like, "So I assume now that we're here, you would like to pay for sex?" And he's like, "Oh, gosh, golly gee, ma'am.
Oh, shucks, I just saw this picture of some woman who I don't actually remember, but I feel bad."
But also, it's like, they just spend that whole walk back talking about, there's a killer out there killing sex workers.
So, about this knife murderer.
Gosh.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, but you seem like you're too nice to be a murderer. Anyway, I'm going to go be naked for a moment. I hope you don't betray me.
That was her explanation, and that was the funniest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah,
I think she actually says, "Why should I be worried?"
Something like that. But then it turns out like he has these flashes of maybe I should kill her, but he's like, "No, I'm going to go." And she's like, "Darn, no sale tonight."
Fiddlesticks, my coffers are empty.
Ah, yes, coffers. And then he finds and meets his wife, and who it turns out cheated on him or something?
Yes, and he's been gone from home for 3 weeks and hasn't returned.
And she has been told that he's having a mental breakdown, and she thinks he's punishing her for having cheated on him, which just makes him sound like a great guy.
Yeah. I mean, John Murdoch, killer of women, noted paragon of virtue.
Indeed. And then we kind of start learning more and more, and like he has to go on a run because Inspector Frank Bumstead is after him.
Right.
Bumstead finds the dead body in the hotel room, finds information that it was Murdoch's room, is going after him, and has taken over the case from Walensky, who has gone bananas.
A complete nervous breakdown.
So Bumstead is convinced Murdoch's the killer and is basically just trying to track him down. And so now Murdoch has this detective and these weird alien monsters after him.
Right.
And he gets cornered by the weird alien monsters, and he's able to, like, use his reality bending to, like, get away and be safe.
And in the process, accidentally kill one, who we later find out is named Mr. Hand. And when the top of Mr. Hand's head gets cut off, what emerges is like a jellyfish got busy with a prawn, but it's a translucent one. And Murdoch obviously looks on in horror.
Yeah, it's one of the aliens from the Abyss, yes.
Nice. The James Cameron extended version, not the theatrical run.
More running around, more figuring things out. Basically, we're learning that John Murdoch is kind of like waking up. He wasn't supposed to wake up, and he has this ability called tuning, which is the reality bending that the aliens have.
Right.
And we're learning that the aliens are completely manipulating this city. And so John Murdoch learns about Surf City, and so he's trying to get to Surf City because that's where his memories
Shell
are.
Beach, but minor point.
Shell Beach. I'm so sorry. Surf City is a different thing. Shell Beach, and so he's trying to get there, and he's doing everything he can to get to Shell Beach, and all roads lead just back into the city.
Yes.
And no matter how hard he tries, he can't make it work.
And when he inquires at numerous people, Bumstead, cab driver, they all say, of course I've been to Shell Beach. But when he says, tell me how you get there, their memory has a strange black hole in it that they're never able to bridge.
Yeah. And when he asks someone on the train, how do you get to Shell Beach? A passerby is like, oh, you take the express train.
Yes.
But the express train never stops.
Yes.
And which I also thought was interesting because, well, here's a definitive answer. I can't use that one. Can I have another, please?
Yeah, right. Well, he has a definitive answer, but that's one of the SS abandoned plot lines. That just, phew, we see the express train once, and then, okay, moving on, back to Emma and Bumstead.
Is the express train what Walensky jumps in front of, or is it just a different train?
I don't think we actually saw the express sign, but that would be artistic points if it were actually an express train that he jumps in front of.
Gotta get to Shell Beach. So basically, as we learn more and more, like, and people get more roped into it, and Bumstead learns there's more than meets the eye, and Emma is also there. We learn that basically, like, this, like, the aliens are controlling it, they're manipulating it. At midnight, everyone in the city falls asleep.
Yes.
Except Murdoch, because Murdoch has been removed from the system through a weird glitch in the Matrix. I mean, in the Dark City.
In the not Matrix.
So he gets to see these aliens completely manipulate and change the city and move people from one place to another and change who they are fundamentally as people.
Yes. Through literal syringes with different admixtures of various psychological traumas, they're able to redefine who people are. And significantly, Dr. Schreiber is the mixologist of memory.
What a great title. First of all...
Take it.
Excellently done. Just perfect. The mixology of memory. Or the mixologist of memory. Oh my god. Top tier. Excellent. Love that.
Thank you. It's Sunday afternoon, man. High point of creativity. It's all downhill from here for the rest of the week.
Yep. We're really tapping in.
Spending it on the important stuff.
And so basically, like, we see all, like, this manipulation of the world, and we spent basically Act 2 running from these aliens, and, like,
pretty much.
Dr. Schreiber is like, no, Murdoch, you're the savior. You can get us out of here. You can fight them off. You have the power. And, like, Murdoch's like, no, I have to get away from everybody. I have to get to Shell Beach. And it's just manipulations and trying to figure things out. And eventually we find out that we're not even on Earth anymore. We're in a giant floating city in the middle of space.
Which, what a great reveal that was, by the way.
That caught me so off guard. Like,
nice.
Murdoch and Bumstead get on a boat, just just going in a direction and getting as far as they can. And they get to Shell Beach, and there's a moment when they open a door and you can see the blue sky beyond the door. I'm like, oh my god, they made it! And he steps outside, and it's just it's
a billboard.
Billboard, thank you.
It's a giant billboard.
And it was like, oh my god, that was such an amazing twist. Like, I was like, oh, there it is! We actually get a spot of color! And then, just the crushing realization.
The literal rug pull after the midpoint scene. Beautifully done.
So good. But then he's like, no! And they, like, tear down the poster, and there's a brick wall behind it. And they start bashing their way through this brick wall to get to the other side.
Yeah. Just two hunks chasing freedom at any cost.
Exactly. And they get to the other side, and it's space.
Oh! And beyond it just being space, the Bumstead has to be held back from being sucked out into the void of space by Murdoch, and the bricks that they just knocked out of the wall hit like the force field at the far end.
And then just go off.
Right, and then they just go off into the outer edge of the Andromeda Galaxy, wherever.
And we didn't mention this, but the stranger that Murdoch basically killed comes back and is like, no, I want his memories. I want who he was supposed to be. That way we can chase him down. And they're like, no, that'll kill you.
Yes.
And he's like, but I'll learn.
Yeah.
And so we get this, like, Mr. Hand being creepy, being like, this is who we were. This is who we are.
Right.
This is who we love. We were married to her once. And it's, like, very weird and off-putting. He does an incredible performance. He does an excellent job.
I mean, he had good training, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Absolutely, it's true. The only thing that stops Murdoch from going absolutely nuts and, like, resisting them telling him to go to sleep is they bring Emma and hold a knife to her neck and say, surrender or we're going to kill her. And he's like, no, the woman that I think I love.
The woman that I found out 6 hours ago that I'd been married to. I will now submit to your machinations, secondary antagonist.
And so he submits, and then they capture him, and basically what happens is, like, so it turns out all the strangers are kind of a collective hive mind.
Right.
And they're these aliens that are studying humans because their species is dying, and they think that the souls that humans have are what can save them as a species.
Yeah, they're the illithid elder brain.
Which is a term I'm familiar with outside of the sentence you just said.
Oh, sorry, deep cut, my bad.
What is it?
Oh, remember the Mind Flayers from, like, 3rd edition D&D? The ones with the cuttlefish mouths?
Yeah.
Great.
Got it. Okay. All right. Cool. Context. Appreciate that. And so they're like, this is the guy. He's our brain Jesus.
Right.
And so he will be what we pour all of our collective consciousness into, and that is how our species will be saved.
Right. He is our new human vessel that will have hair and be ambulatory and not look dead. Mm-hmm. It's a real upgrade for them.
Absolutely.
Cosmetically,
nowhere to go from up, really. Like, and honestly, the other benefit is he'll be alive, which is way better than they're used to.
Hot body temp, hot blooded. You know.
Oh man.
Flirty and fancy free.
Check it and see.
Yeah, right.
But Dr. Daniel Schraber switches the vial at the last minute and instead gives him, like, memories of, like, how to use his powers.
Yeah, implanted memories where he's giving him a mentor journey.
Which was really cool. And then Murdoch goes full on Neo in the Matrix.
Goku, Neo, take your pick.
Yeah, all of it. And basically has a brain reality bending fight with Mr. Book, who's been the head alien this whole time, and wins. And then shapes the city to his will.
Yeah, he uses the psychic engines to reshape Earth. I mean, the floating flat Earth disk.
Yeah, and like he creates an ocean out around the end of the city, and importantly, the sun finally rises because it's been a dark city because the aliens don't like the sun. They don't like light and they don't like water. Great. But they finally, which is weird considering that they're squid jellyfish or shrimp jellyfish.
Truly, the aliens from the abyss. They just want to live in the pelagic zone, deep underneath.
And like the sun rises, and he's like, finally I can get to Shell Beach. Mm-hmm. The end.
The end. But he experienced his Neo moment just after they had recombined everybody. So Emma was now Anna, and the woman he knew no longer existed. But Anna gets essentially like resurrected. He creates Shell Beach out of his will and the psychic machines, and she goes to the boardwalk, and our last shot is of him exiting and them standing side by side at the blossom of a new romance.
Yeah, and definitely no power discrepancy in that dynamic at all.
I fail to see the problem. I don't see how that's an Edward, like, Twilight Breaking Dawn situation whatsoever.
Yeah, everyone should be able to date God.
Sounds exciting. I mean,
yeah.
Is it Dr. Manhattan? As I recall, that turned out fine.
Yeah, barely anyone got cancer.
Yeah, right. Now, yes, there was some cancer, but there was only one person being blown up physically. And he's on my cast list, by the way.
Oh, is he? That's funny.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good choice, actually.
Thank you.
But yeah, good. Love it. All right. So that's the movie as it exists. I've kind of talked about one of the things that I want to change and manipulate. But before we get to that, what are some of the pieces for you that need to remain to make this Dark City? Like, it's not Dark City without these things.
It's not Dark City without humans forced to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do and feeling a vague sense of disquiet and regret every time they wake up and don't know who they are, or every time they're disjointed from who they thought they had been. So some type of story mechanic that lets people essentially be chopped up and screwed and remixed into things they wouldn't otherwise have been.
Agreed. I completely agree with that. I would have notes as to the mechanics of that, but yes, I agree with that. I like that they need the mixologist of memory.
Right.
Like, I think that that's important. Because if it's this alien species not understanding how humanity works, like, there needs to be someone who can function as translator.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, like, mixologist of memory, but he's more like the interlocutor of the soul. Because that's the real question we end up being, where John says, like, you were looking for what makes us human, you shouldn't have looked in here, and he points at his head. And then he avoids, thank God, pointing at his heart. But you need some character who's able and just amoral enough, even though he ends up being a triple agent, to bridge that gap between the alien and the human.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought his character was certainly the most interesting, is like he was the only one who kind of knew everything.
Right.
And it's a difficult place to be, but it's a necessary place to exist. But yeah, I thought that was necessary. And just the big reveal of, like, Dark City itself just being a lone city controlled in space, I thought was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was great. And seeing that, like, you know, it was mostly computer generated, but it looked like 30, 50, 70 different individual cities, like memories of different megalopolises cobbled together, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. I have a weird question for you. So they talk about in the movie about how, oh man, this killer has killed 6 different women or something.
Yeah.
And then they provide us a list of names. Did those people ever exist? We only ever see 2 women killed, and one of them wouldn't have been the 6th. She would have been the 7th person killed.
Right.
So we see one of the 6. Did the other 5 actually exist? Or are they just made up for the purposes of concocting the memory and the history?
In the original or in the remake?
In the original.
In the original, I believe that they did exist. It's presented as ambiguous, so it could be either. But given that there's actual human body evidence, probably. And my theory is that those bodies were probably reappropriated with new mixologized memories as basically husks for whomever. Not for the strangers, but for some other poor soul who had to wake up in a foreign vessel.
Interesting. So you think that in this Dark City, in this world, there is no real death because the bodies themselves can always be reality shifted to be realived.
Exactly. And that's sort of what I got from Walensky's suicide, because he was so desperate to escape what is basically like a hellish karmic cycle of rebirth, that he was desperate enough to jump in front of a train.
And the only way he could escape was to destroy his body.
Exactly. It's so smashed that it's beyond any degree of recuperation. I mean, with the psychic machines, maybe, but at least plausibly, no.
Yeah, interesting. That's a decent thought. Okay, what are some things that you are interested in changing for our remake, for Dark City 2024?
Thank you. I think the alien angle is less compelling, especially at this point. What I find eternally compelling is the meditation on humanity, and it seems like regret for one's past actions. So my biggest pitch is, do you want me to mention writer-director?
We don't need writer-director yet, because right now it's you. You're the producer. You're pitching it.
Okay, here's my pitch. We aren't in sci-fi purgatory. We are in Preacher Season 2 purgatory. We are in one of the higher circles of hell, where you're not you're not mixologizing memories per se, but you're mixologizing different proclivities for actions that people wouldn't normally do. Because as opposed to feeding on human memories or searching for a vessel, the strangers aren't aliens in want of a physical form. They're demons who need the sustenance of pain and human regret. And that is their psychic meat and drink, their literal num-nums by which they sustain themselves.
So it's the good place functioning as the Matrix?
Yes, the good place functioning as the Matrix, and these psychic machines that they only use as like MacGuffins aren't psychic machines from which anything can be built. They're pain engines within which are housed people from whose distilled suffering they're able to actually keep the edifice afloat. Because if and when those machines go kaput, demons go bye-bye because they starve to death.
Got it. Well, so then then theoretically is that your finale? Because if that is in fact they're in hell, it's kind of impossible to have a positive ending for that because no matter what, you're still in hell.
Aha!
Like even...
Go ahead, finish.
No, please.
Only if you don't have a John Murdoch-like figure willing to endure torment because of his deep love for humanity to raise everyone out of hell the same way our original Murdoch created a sunrise and created ultimately a globe of Earth.
We can't do that because that's just Jesus.
Yeah, I fail to see the problem.
Yeah, no, I'm not as I don't believe either of us is Christian.
No.
It feels weird to pitch a Jesus story.
No. So, in case that was incomplete, Emma in this pitch is the Dr. Schraber role. So she's the triple agent. And as opposed to us getting a Mr. Smith Neo Sky battle of reality bending, what we get is Emma, instead of injecting him with the knowledge of how to utilize reality bending, pulling all of the plugs on all of the paint engines with the exception of one, which is a focus for, instead of distilled reality bending, distilled religious faith, which he has his little focus, his Medal of St. Christopher. And then, instead of getting the sunrise, what we get is, when we look at Shell Beach, is the tiniest slice of blue sky. John enters the paint engine. We don't know if anything's happened, but instead of the red crimson sky, we get the slightest lightening of it to something like our daytime, and that's it.
I like the idea. I like the idea of playing with the true nature of being trapped in purgatory and in hell, and that, and just the philosophical nature of it, really meditating on what is the nature of the soul, because at the end of the day, that is kind of the core concept of what this movie was attempting to be.
Right.
This movie, for all of everything else that's going on, is an attempt to meditate on what is the nature of the soul.
Right.
My pitch, in addition to the things I talked about at the beginning, was ultimately, for me, this was more a study of nature versus nurture, and what the aliens, the strangers, whatever were doing, were basically taking the nature out of different people and plugging it into different situations of nurture.
Yeah.
Because what the movie fails to account for is you take the memories and the personality of someone who grew up extremely poor and you plug it into someone who's extremely rich. That's going to function differently. You take someone born into incredible privilege and you put it into someone who's been a persecuted minority their entire life, and it's going to fizzle out and make no sense. But the nature of the person who they are plugged into different nurtures will provide different things. And that I found to be more interesting, of the ultimate exhibit of how much of who we are as a person is based off of our lived experiences and how much of it is kind of inherent to some sort of supposed core.
Yeah.
Whether that, and that's the thing that I would see them not as torture, but as genuine curiosity and not understanding and wanting to test.
Yeah, and I think the one variable they weren't able to really wrap their minds around was that human consciousness, human soul, whichever word, is socially determined by whom you have around you. And that's what I think they were trying to suggest with John seeking out Emma, even though she wasn't Emma anymore, because without her, he wasn't him.
Got it. Interesting. I didn't pick up on that, but that makes total sense.
I mean, I think so. Another good example of it is when Bumstead says about his accordion, my mother gave it to me, but I have no memory of her having given it to me. And he has this horrible, winsome expression on his face, as though it pains him to be without that memory.
My pitch for the interesting thing to start us off was, so I gender swapped my John Murdoch and my Emma Murdoch, but the part of the reason why I wanted to do that was some sort of mistake happens. Like, I don't like the movie Brazil, but the beginning of the movie Brazil starts with like a fly landing on the typewriter and like getting crushed, and it changes the order.
Right.
So like there's a bug in the bureaucracy, literally. And so for me, it's these two people. There's the woman killed on the ground and the guy in the bathtub, and the Dr. Daniel Schreiber, somehow the two souls, the two memories get swapped and get put in the wrong body.
Nice.
So in my version, the woman wakes up and has all the memories that the guy was supposed to have. And so it's like, it's this weird mix of just like, just because of this simple mistake of someone who was never supposed to have those types of memories, and because it's just completely incongruous with who that person is at their core, it like, that's when everything kind of cracks around her, and she starts to like see the code, see the matrix, see the nature of this reality, and is able to start taking out bits and pieces and able to control them. Because like at the end of the day, we see that like just this simple switch of two vials, and how that like at the end of the movie when Dr. Schreiber did it on purpose, but who's to say that Dr. Schreiber didn't do it on purpose the whole time?
Right.
And has been manipulating everything from the beginning.
Right.
Like they say, oh, it was an accident, it was a mistake, we don't understand. But what if the one person who understands everything is the person who does? And like the one person who's been slowly concocting the perfect person has been taking a piece from here, a piece from there, a piece from this, to make kind of like this idealized human who's finally able to free all of us from these strange aliens.
Yeah, Dr. Schreiber constructing a Vitruvian man Jesus.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
I can dig that. Hey, you know, I don't want to do any messianic stuff. If that's out, then it's out. But, you know, whatever.
I mean, I'm okay with a Messiah if a Messiah is man-made. Like, I don't like the idea of someone being born special. That's ridiculous to me. But if someone has been constructed, but, like, you can't just start as RoboCop. You have to be built into RoboCop.
Yeah, you have to have your limbs blown off first by Rev Foreman.
Correct.
Following question, do you see any man-made Messiah, to use your earlier formulation, as being a poor person in the rich person's body, where they don't know how to act while suddenly being almighty, and they turn to evil?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's exactly it, because like that I think makes more interesting, because the thing I want is like people body shifting all around the characters as it's happening, and to the point where like body shifting, and then all of a sudden you have one of the aliens wearing the Inspector Bumstead outfit or whatever, and like all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm this unseen, unknowable force, and I've plugged myself in order to take control, and now all of a sudden I have that purpose, but I have that purpose on top of all these powers.
Right.
Because the movie as it exists now talks about how whenever they've tried to put human memories in one of the strangers, the stranger dies. Like, they can't handle it.
Yeah.
And what if every single one of the murders had been done because that had been, like, anytime they try to put human memories in one of the strangers, they can't handle it, and they lash out on whoever's around. And so the series of murders was, in fact, a series of failed attempts of...
Software-hardware incompatibility.
It's software-hardware incompatibility. Trying to plug U.S. plugs into European outlets. The whole thing.
Electrical fire ensues.
It just causes so many fires. Exactly. Because, like, at the end of the day, that's what they want. Like that's what this foreign force is trying to do. Is like they're trying to emulate humanity. They're trying to understand humanity. And at the end of the movie, it proves that they are studying the wrong aspect of humanity.
Yeah.
Because they're just studying the hardware, and they're not studying the soft, like the interconnect. They're studying the computer. They're not studying the web.
Right.
And if you want to really understand humanity, you just got to look at the internet, and it's not good.
I mean, look at those AIs that are, you know, sociopathic and try to commit suicide. Yeah.
Like, genuinely, yeah. Like, that's kind of the thing I think we should be trying to emulate. Of, like, that's what they're doing, is they're looking at one individual instead of looking at the community as a whole.
Yeah, and fatally failing to account for that humans, like, was it no man is an island of himself. It's literally people don't exist in isolation, and those who try to, they tend to go insane.
Yes. But to the point I wanted to make earlier is they were looking for the chosen one to emerge, but the chosen one can never emerge because they're an individual. But Dr. Schraber knows that if we take a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person, and we all as a community contribute a little bit of ourselves, that is how we can truly make Captain Planet. I mean Captain Discworld. I mean Captain Dark City.
Yeah, that's how we can make Goku, by splicing the micro kernels of divinity that each human has within him at his best moments.
Honestly, yeah.
That's like, it's very idealistic in a complimentary type way, and I dig it.
Cool.
That feels earned.
I always try to aim for idealistic if I can, because like we have fatalistic just as life.
Yeah, and I mean, also look at you. Like, when Sam starts making really negative, cynical pitches, we all have to be very worried.
I mean, at the end of the day, I do have a cartoon dinosaur on my shirt.
But look at the art style of that dinosaur.
And it says, I'm doing my best.
Yeah, you might as well get a t-shirt that says, it has that dog, and it says, everything on fire, and says,
everything's fine?
This is fine. Everything's fine.
This is fine. Hilariously, I have a different shirt that also has a Brontosaurus-style dinosaur on it, and it just says, all my friends are dead.
Jesus Christ.
Different shirt for a different day.
I wear that one primarily during the winter.
Yeah. Oh. The real great thing about that shirt is a friend gave it to me.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Really makes you think.
Yeah, how they perceive you versus how you perceive yourself.
Yeah. I think they just know I like silly things. But for our movie, for Dark City 2024, what else do we need? What other pieces are important? Like, how do you want the final showdown to go? Like, do you want it to be Goku Jesus versus
Frieza hand,
bad agent from the Matrix.
Frieza book. No, I think that was my least favorite part of the movie, is that and honestly, weirdly, it ended up being kind of identical to the Matrix Revolutions, where Neo fights Mega Smith. Any battle in the sky that we get that reminds me of like an Akira Toriyama anime is weak. So that's why I pitched Emma being the triple agent. So as opposed to getting a giant action set-piece battle, we get something that puts the protagonist to a decision for who he's going to be and how he's going to arc. Because at the end, if we only have one of these pain engines left, and that's the only chance to raise people out of hell, then the protagonist still has to make a fraught moral and physical choice right at the end of the movie, which the battle in the sky sort of just like writes off, because I think what Murdoch literally says, you're saying I can do anything with these machines so long as I concentrate hard enough? And that's pretty much the throwaway line that we get, which honestly was a bummer. Okay.
Do you have a pitch, or would you like to hear mine?
You go first.
So my pitch is, we kind of are introduced to these aliens as like a hive mind that are kind of all working towards the same collective like understanding and goal. And I feel like the easiest thing is, what if what Murdoch is able to do is make them all individuals, is to give them all a sense of individuality. So now it's not about trying to find the core nature of humanity. It's now they literally have to turn in on themselves and be like, oh my God, I've never been an I before, but all of a sudden, who am I? And it's victory through existential crisis.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he inflicts individuality on a hive mind, wouldn't most of them just like jump off the metaphorical boat?
I think, interestingly, some of them would, and then some of them, like, and then there'll be a couple that'll be like, no, why did I just save you?
Right.
And then, like, another one will be like, push. Why did I push you? And just, like, trying to figure out who they are as people, like, because they've never been people before. They've just been a crowd.
They would be toddlers who don't know it's bad to hit their sister yet. Like, on that level of experimentation.
Sort of, but also, like, toddlers who don't understand that not to hit their sister, but also, like, have the self-awareness of, like, seeing themselves being like, why am I having a tantrum right now? And just, like...
Yeah, how come when I walk in this direction, everybody else doesn't walk right along with me because they are separate entities and they can exercise will.
Yeah. Something like that. Because that also fits the nature of the movie that has existed up until that point of like them not understanding individuality because they don't experience it themselves.
Right.
And because they don't understand individuality, they don't really understand community.
Exactly.
Because their community is nothing but a singular individual.
Yeah. It's not I, it's we are Harbinger. I mean, we are the Overmind. I mean...
Yes.
Other alien metaphors.
I mean, resistance is futile.
Yeah, right. I mean, not the Borg.
Resistance is useless.
Tom Hardy peaked early. That was such a great thing. Him as Romulan in...
Nemesis.
Thank you. Yes, of course.
Cool. What else are we missing? What else do we need?
I want an Emma who feels like less of an empty vessel. I want somebody...
That is part of the reason why I gender swapped it, so that we actually have,
and
competent ladies.
Even if we don't, even if we don't go with your exact pitch, at a minimum, we need an actress who can suggest that, she can exercise a shadowy dimension to her morality, which is sort of where I was at in my casting choice, where I was like, ooh, yes, you actually played evil and made me believe that you might be that in real life, versus Jennifer Connelly, who just didn't do that for me.
No, and I think that's reasonable. Like, the 3 movies I've seen Jennifer Connelly in are this, The Rocketeer, and The Labyrinth.
How have you not seen, Requiem for a Dream or Inventing the Habits? Or...
It seems sad.
Yes. Yes. It's Darren Aronofsky. Welcome to the party, pal.
No, I don't want to watch a sad thing.
Yeah, right. Speaking of, I never watched The Whale.
I didn't.
Oh, really? Yeah. Thank you. Prove my point.
Yeah. It seems sad.
Yeah. And
I didn't watch a lot of the movies.
Yeah. The Wrestler? No?
I've seen The Wrestler.
Okay, fair.
It's my friend Chad's favorite movie, or it was a long time ago.
Sure.
It's life is sad enough on its own. I want to watch, if I'm going to be consuming entertainment, I want to be consuming entertainment that brings me up instead of brings me down.
Yeah, hence Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio on repeat for the rest of your life. Yeah, right, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is a separate thing, but I watched the Oscars, and that was the one category where I'd seen all of the movies, and I'm like, that is the movie I actually think should have won the award least, but that's fine.
Watching you talk about the animation nominees was great. Child, candy store, other metaphors as well.
Yeah, they're so fun. There are so many good ones this year. It was a good year for animation, except for all the people who lost their jobs.
Yeah, that's minor note.
So, but yeah, to your other point of combining Emma with Dr. Daniel Schreiber, the other thing I think is interesting is we have one guy who's theoretically adjusting the memories of everyone in the entire city in one night.
Yep.
And that makes no sense.
One man with a heart condition, no less, that he mentioned 6 times.
Correct. And what I think is interesting is that, so we have Dr. Daniel Schreiber and we have Emma. And I think every other person, including in Bumstead and Walensky and May and Carl Harris, all of them, I think they should be changing actors potentially throughout the movie. But I think Emma and Dr. Daniel Schreiber shouldn't be. And I feel like that's going to be a big reveal, that Emma was also a doctor the whole time. The big reveal is that because she hasn't changed bodies,
right?
She has remained the same. And it's like, oh, you've also been manipulating people this whole time. It's like, yeah, but it worked.
Right.
And because I like your idea, and I think we need to have that for something like that. Even if we don't do my gender swap or whatever, or if we swap it back, I think that it's necessary for something like that.
Yeah, in the OG, we're given one pole to revolve around, and it's basically Schreiber. He's the spoke at the the axis at the center of the wheel. Now, if we had 2 poles like you're suggesting, that's a lot more interesting, especially if the body swap mechanic is in play, because then absolutely everybody is unnerved, including our protagonist, at these North Stars of the cast of characters. So I'm on board.
In my head, there's basically 3 groups. There's the strangers, the aliens, there's the humans that are being experimented upon, and then there are the humans who are navigating the experience. They're the fulcrum between the two.
Yeah, they're the test group.
Yeah. No, they're the ones initiating the test. They're the ones doing the thing.
Oh,
they're
okay.
the ones,
Misunderstood.
They're the humans who are basically like being completely controlled, who have no idea what's going on. And then there's the 1% of them, the less than 1%, who are actually the ones going around and taking the cartridge out of one and putting that cartridge into, blowing into it, and then putting that cartridge into someone else.
The Geek Squad of Dark City.
Correct. Absolutely, yes.
The people who come around with AOL CD still in 2024.
Yes, correct. That.
Got it.
And so I think our Dr. Daniel and Emma should both be Geek Squad.
Yes, and I would like for them to expand upon the amorality that we get from the original article to a greater degree, to where we can tell they're using people, but we only get a sense that they're using people for any degree of what could be construed as good, all the way at the very end.
Yeah. Then we have like the strangers trying to find the nature of humanity, the humans being experimented on, and the people who are basically just like the serfs trying to make it work, but their act of rebellion is slow. Like all of them, all the 1% are slowly collecting that little bit of that little spark of gold or whatever, and making our ultimate Goku Jesus. I'm sorry, we're not doing Goku this time. Our ultimate
Vegeta Jesus.
Say that again.
Our ultimate Vegeta Jesus.
Vegeta Jesus, yeah. Oh god, oh man, I need the name. This reference isn't going to work without the name.
Piccolo, Yamcha, Krillin.
I'm leaving Dragon Ball Z for a
minute. Okay.
Not Yamcha, though.
Yeah, seriously, it's the worst.
Anyone but Yamcha.
Okay, Master Roshi, take it or leave it.
Oh boy. I'd rather Puar. Our ultimate Muad'Dib Jesus.
You just walked into my world, baby. I've been refraining from doing the difference between a hero and an anti-hero is when you end the story. That's my Frank Herbert voice, so...
Great. I didn't know that's what he sounded like.
He did not sound remotely like that at all.
Okay. And yet, that's all the context I have, so it'll just have to be how he sounds like forever.
Yeah.
Sorry, Frank Herbert.
Sorry, buddy.
I'm going to bring people back from the dead, and it'll have weird baby sisters.
Yeah. There will be Golas. Don't ask me what that means.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, our Muad'Dib Jesus.
Yeah.
Because it's not Goku, certainly no energy abilities here, but subtly controlling the reality around you and planting things in people's heads, Muad'Dib.
Yeah, the access to the other memories of his entire line.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, good. Let's talk casting.
In. You go first.
Okay, so because like I said, my John Murdoch, I changed from a guy to a lady for the reasons. And I wanted someone who is able to just represent joy. Like at the end of the day, like no matter how much reality and potentially a fan base have like hammered them down, at the end of the day, they as a human being just represent joy. And anytime you watch them perform, like you should just be like, oh,
right.
I want you to be happy. So obviously the correct answer for this is Kelly Marie Tran.
Go on.
And that's who I think would really be able to like capture the spirit and the joy and like can be pulled together and be like just this reflection of just like pure good within humanity, and then it just takes the form of Kelly Marie Tran.
All right.
Who you would know from Rose in The Last Jedi. She's also in Sorry for Your Loss, and she's in Raya and the Last Dragon.
Wow, that is very plucky. Do you see that as being inconsistent totally, where she's so resilient that we can't think that like they're not gonna kill a lady like this off, because like to look at Rufus Sewell, you're like, oh, they might actually kill this guy.
That is a distinct possibility, and especially because it is Dark City, she might be a source of too much light.
Yeah, unless she has a fifth gear that we don't know about, which I'm here for.
Right, but like if we end up like making her our Emma, for example, and she's just plays the Jennifer Connelly is just like dour the entire movie, and then we finally get to the end and she's like, you finally figured it out, and like you just like she just beams like brightness. It's just like, oh my god. And so like when she finally gets sun on her face. But yes,
that would be,
I could absolutely
that Emma role that you just pitched and her flipping at the end would be absolutely awesome. And I think it would be a better use of what it seems like her portfolio.
I think you're probably right.
Okay.
But that said, who do you have for your John Murdoch?
Fassbender.
Oh, interesting. How old is Fassbender?
He's almost like 60.
Definitely should have him date the 30-year-old Kelly Marie Tran.
He's pickled himself in tobacco, so he can pass for 35.
No. He's only 45, actually.
Wow. Well, he's living hard, I guess.
He is 11 years older than Kelly Marie Tran, which actually isn't as bad as I thought it was. If he was 60, I'd have said hard no, but since he's 45, it's not quite as bad.
Yeah.
He is married to Alicia Vikander. Good for them.
Yeah.
Why did you want Fassbender?
So when I look at Sewell in the original...
Okay, this is weird.
Okay.
Alicia Vikander and Kelly Marie Tran, so like Michael Fassbender's actual wife is the exact same age as Kelly Marie Tran. I'm sorry, continue.
Aha! Vindicated.
Honestly.
When I look at Sewell in the original, I see somebody, it's like, it's Hollywood. So he's going to be hot, but he's not like obnoxiously Marvel level hot. And his look and the way he plays it expresses a vulnerability and an openness that you would need to find from somebody who's supposed to represent like a vessel for all that humanity's multifarious possibilities. And sure. I think Fassbender is one of the few leading men who's been able to inhabit that type of openness. In particular, I'm thinking of totally different subject matter, but Shame, where he plays a sex addict, but somehow he seems needful and almost innocent.
Got it. Okay, interesting. Since we're kind of mixing these two up a little bit, who did you have for your Emma role?
Thought you'd never ask. Ava Green.
Oh, why do I not immediately know who that is?
Casino Royale. Moneypenny.
Oh.
Also, and this is why I picked her, Penny Dreadful. And, spoiler alert, at various times in Penny Dreadful, she's pursued and or possessed by the devil, who literally wants her for his bride. So she goes into these fits, literally like Reagan from The Exorcist, where she's possessed. So there's inherent ability to project some type of malevolence that I would love to see from the Emma character that went totally unexplored beyond a throwaway. I cheated on you and you're mad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to get rid of all of that, by the way. The I cheated on you and you're mad stuff is dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it was 97. Like, a little out of date.
I know. Yeah. We didn't bring it up but it's dumb. Because I did the switch, my Emma was an actor named Jacob Scipio, who I recently just saw in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, but he's also in Bad Boys for Life. And as a fun little twist, he's also a voice in Bob the Builder.
Great.
If you don't remember who he is, and if you've seen Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, he's the bodyguard.
Yeah.
And he's great. But what I think we should do is I think we should do Michael Fassbender for John and then Kelly Marie Tran for Emma.
In. We can lock those in.
So then that brings me to Dr. Daniel Schreiber, who is the only other person who I think needs to be static the whole movie. Because as far as I'm concerned, literally everyone else has the ability to be a bunch of different bodies.
Yes.
For Dr. Daniel Schreiber, I was like, I kind of need just like a Weasley guy. Kind of the person who's like clearly getting pushed around, but like in the back of their head, they're like, but I'm the real smart one. Mm. They'll see. They'll all see. And that's the sort of performance you get from him in Renfield, The Great, Mad Max Fury Road, X-Men,
Nicholas Hoult?
blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, as long as we're casting Magneto, may as well get Beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I was like, yeah, good Weasley kind of guy.
I can see it.
But like, at the end of the day, it's like, we think he's going to be just like the betrayer of humanity, but like, turns out he's one of a number of people who are also not completely evil.
Right, and it would be satisfying to see from somebody with the Weasley look that he's the most magnanimous of all.
Yeah, the secret best character when you're watching Mad Max Fury Road kind of thing.
Yeah, and he'll tell everybody, witness me. I mean, there's hope for humanity.
Yep, exactly. As he sprays gold, silver chrome memories on his mouth.
Yeah, right. Atomized human soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Who did you have for the Good Doctor?
Wow, talk about polar opposites. Ben Kingsley.
Wow, yeah, that is polar opposites. Okay, here's the reason why I like Ben Kingsley. I want to imply that he's been doing this for a very, very, very long time.
Which he has been acting for a very long time.
The reason why I think we should go with Ben Kingsley is to imply that this whole experiment has been going on since he was his Muad'Dib Jesus experiment is something that he's been trying to put together for 60 years.
Yeah, he's the Bene Gesserit of this whole sitch.
Exactly, but also not evil.
They're not evil. They just have a plan for humanity.
And how well has that worked out for everyone else who's had a plan for humanity?
I mean, pretty great. I mean, how many... What's 61 billion victims when you're Muad'Dib?
It's true. But yeah, I think Ben Kingsley's an interesting idea.
Nice.
I think Ben Kingsley's a good one. Let's do Ben Kingsley.
Okay,
so that brings... I have a bunch of people for this one, actually. That brings me to Inspector Frank Bumstead.
Yes.
And for all of these, if we do end up switching people around, I think these are the performances that we use as, like, the base of, like, this is who we originally see as the character, so it's who we, like, learn who they are. And then, like, other people are kind of, like, doing their mannerisms and performances as we move on.
Okay.
So who did you have for your Inspector Frank Bumstead?
Idris Elba.
I mean, that works. I literally just watched Pacific Rim 2 nights ago.
Speaking of Guillermo, one of his finest.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And I keep running into people who turn out don't like that movie. And I'm like, they're all wrong. That movie's fun.
Yeah, but you get no more
the only word.
movie opinions.
Yeah. Like, well, no. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying it's fun, and sometimes that's enough.
It's kaiju. What more need I say?
Exactly. You weren't a child growing up watching Gundam as... You didn't grow up watching Gundam. Let me have this.
Yeah, right. You didn't grow up watching Genesis Climber Most Pieta that they told us was a third Gundam series.
Yeah. Yes. Oh man, you didn't watch the one where there's a horse Gundam and it's controlled by a horse.
I don't acknowledge that run.
I like that.
Of course you do.
I'm the king of hearts. My weird spandex turns gold for some reason.
Sam as Marge. I just think these little ports are neat.
I mean, I'm not even talking about Chibi Gundam. I definitely watched that.
Yeah.
That one's the one that's weird. Oh man, Chibi Gundam. I fucking watched it, but it's so strange.
It's bizarre.
They needed a counter program or they needed something to pair with Hamtaro, and I guess Chibi Gundam's the way to go.
Yeah. Peas, carrots, peanut butter, chocolate.
Absolutely. So my Inspector Frank Bumstead, because I wanted a grumpy, grouchy old man, but who like has a heart of gold when you really get to know him. And at the end of the day, that's just Dr. Cox.
Okay.
So I went with John C. McKinley.
Oh, that would be that would be his Oscar reach, where he's just like, I'm swinging for the fences, and I dig it.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel real good about that one.
Yeah, that's solid.
I remade The Rock for the last episode, and part of me was like, I really wanted to use John C. McKinley for The Rock, but he's already in The Rock, so I can't reuse him for a remake of The Rock.
And it's just him being buff and yelling like, "Yes, sir!" in response to dropping the ball.
Yeah, it's like, there's so much John C. McKinley until we eventually get him as Dr. Cox, and like every single one, you're like, you're gonna be Dr. Cox someday. Yep. It's gonna be great. Every single time, I'm just like, you deserve more.
Watching The Rock at 95, I'm seeing you in a Dr. Cox type role. It just seems like a great part for you.
You see him in Office Space, and you're just like, oh, yeah, I mean, look at you doing this. But what if you did this in a lab coat?
Yeah. Him as Teddy Roosevelt. What if you did this whole man of action thing as an attending doctor?
Yes, exactly that. Good. So then I have Mr. Hand and Mr. Book. But let's start with Mr. Hand.
You want to go first?
You went first for the last one. My turn to go first.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted someone who's interestingly charismatic while also being intimidating.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. That's who I have as my Mr. Book. That's weird. Oh, that's right. My Mr. Hand, my Mr. Hand is just creepy.
Okay. I was going to say.
Creepy dude, but very capable actor. He's in Chernobyl. He's in Dunkirk. He was in The Eternals. He's also in Banshees of Inisherin. I went with Barry Keoghan.
Oh, really? Go on.
Yeah. Because he's an excellent actor.
Right.
He's done some amazing things. But like, at the end of the day, like, he plays a creepy dude really well.
Yeah.
And that's what Mr. Hand is. He's a creepy dude who's, like, embodying what he thinks a human is actually like, but in the worst possible way.
Yes. I think, he definitely has the chops for it, especially based off Inisherin. I worry that he doesn't look depraved enough.
Well, we give him a bald cap and spiky teeth.
Okay, fine. In.
That's what prosthetics are for. You make him look like an alien.
Yeah, we're going to give him horrible bags under his eyes. We'll sort everything out.
Yeah. Who did you have for Mr. Hand?
Gary Oldman.
I mean, I can't deny that Gary Oldman is literally capable of playing every part.
Yeah. Gary Oldman circa Leon the Professional type performance.
Yeah. If it were possible to get Gary Oldman circa Leon the Professional, I'd say yes. But
You're worried
I think
he'd be Darkest Hour, Gary Oldman.
Well, I also think he needs to be younger.
Yeah, that's true.
Theoretically, I think that if we have an old Mr. Hand, then we don't get to have the juxtaposition of an older Mr. Book.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which I think is more important.
I defer for young Master Keoghan in this case.
Yeah. But who is your Mr. Book?
I had Ian McDiarmid, the Emperor, Palpatine.
Oh, yeah. What else has he done other than being the Emperor?
Honestly, I think that's it. I think he's like an Alan Rickman type, where
I mean, it's possible.
A lot of theater, couple film roles.
Yeah, true. And he is the voice of the Emperor. Like, he is the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad.
Yours?
I went with a slightly older gentleman, and who also himself might be a little bit too young. But this is the one where I was going with, can come off as jovial, he's the guy in charge, but then just can flip a switch and just this is what's about to happen, and you're about to be terrified of me. You do not understand. I'm the fucking best.
Yeah, he's gonna heavy it.
Yeah, and so I've seen him in Bullet Train. I've seen him in Godzilla vs. Kong. He's in Atlanta. I went with Brian Tyree Henry.
Interesting.
He might not be the right choice for Mr. Book. He actually might be a better choice for Mr. Hand. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. Let's do Ian McDiarmid for Mr. Book, and let's make Brian Tyree Henry our Mr. Hand.
Ian.
I think that's a little bit more fun. And then I have Walensky, May, and Carl Harris. Do you have those? And is there anyone I'm missing?
Stromboli, but he's in there for 5 seconds.
But you have someone for that?
Yes.
Great. That means it's guaranteed to be yours.
Nailed it.
Remind me who Stromboli is?
The chief inspector who talks like this and tells Bumstead to lay off.
Yeah. Good. All right. So before we do that, let's talk about Walensky.
Okay.
Because let me go first, because I'm pretty sure we're going to go with yours. I went with Walensky because it'd be someone who we'd be really sad to see die.
Right.
I went with someone who, kind of in the same, Kelly Marie Tran, kind of someone who's just, represents a lot of joy and, has struggled a bunch, but, we just want him to be happy. And to watch him, completely fall apart, I think it could be a juicy acting role, but also, we're no! Masaoka, no! So that's what I went with. I went with Masaoka.
Okay.
But I don't think that's what we want for this role. I think that's a little bit too light, especially if we're doing that elsewhere in the movie.
Yeah, if it were written as a character who isn't already off the deep end, yes. But given how far gone Walensky sounds like still is in our remake.
Yeah. If this were a TV show and he was starting and then we get to see him degenerate, sure, but not for our version. But so tell me who we will actually be going with for Walensky.
My pitch was Jackie Earle Haley.
Tell me about Jackie Earle Haley.
We only know him from the Zack Snyder version of Watchmen, where he plays the real-life Batman, Rorschach, who is grown up in a brutal home and has become the avatar of social Darwinism, but is also the only superhero who retains a shred of morality. And for that, he gets splooted by Dr. Manhattan. just absolutely blown up.
Dr. Hatton make Rorschach explode.
Yeah.
Yes, good. He's had a bunch of other roles, but that's the thing that I also know him from. He was in a couple episodes of Narcos. He's in 12 episodes of The Tick, playing a character called The Terror. Apparently, he was in 8 episodes of Preacher and.
Yes, can't believe I forgot that.
The remake of RoboCop. Oh yeah, he was in Alita Battle Angel. Yeah, I think that's a great choice. Absolutely, good pull.
Thank you.
Who's your May?
I went with Margot Robbie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Yours?
I can see you doing that. So I wanted someone who can do I also saw her in Bullet Train. I want someone who can kind of do because she dies.
Right.
And I want her to then be able to be embodied by someone else who comes back as if she gets embodied by one of the strangers and comes back and starts killing shit and wrecking shit. I want someone who can kind of play innocent-ish since she's a sex worker. Although we don't even need to have her necessarily be a sex worker. She's just someone who helps John Murdoch and then is later killed.
Yeah, minor ally.
She's set up to be a victim, isn't a victim, but then is killed anyway. But then she comes back and is
formidable,
completely badass, crazy, completely different personality. And I cast this actress because just her face is very, like, she's very pretty. But like, she was the one who played the princess in the movie, The Princess, the one about like the badass princess who's like kind of taking control of herself. I don't know if that movie was good. I never saw it.
Me either.
But like, just the concept of and the portrayal of, I think is a good idea. She's also in Act, and in Bullet Train, she's very, very good. Like that's literally the kind of character she plays in Bullet Train.
Bullet Train is a foundational text for you, man.
Absolutely, it's great. This actress is named Joey King.
Let me double check the face to see if she has the.
If it helps, she's also in The Conjuring.
Oh. Yeah, absolutely. There's something about her that says, I have a third dimension which is capable of destruction.
Which, again, is the character she plays in Bullet Train, but she does it well, and so I think that kind of works for this.
Yeah.
Before we get to Carl Harris, who is Stromboli?
Oscar Isaac.
Done. Ooh, that's fun.
Thank you. Oscar Isaac circa Drive, where he's a reprobate minor criminal.
You can't do circa. It's how he is right now.
Oh, okay. I'm sure he can find that again.
Yeah.
he could find somehow Palpatine returned. He can find this.
Good. So then let me tell you about my Carl
Go on.
Harris, who I've seen him perform, but he's not like a super memorable actor, but I kind of got him for that role of like just kind of an older character actor who's been around, who's been a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit this, a little bit that. And I don't know, I like finding interesting actors that otherwise wouldn't get mentioned. This actor was in episodes of Bob Hart's Abishola. He's in a few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like he's also been around. He was in the original Rush Hour back in the day. This actor is named Barry Shabaka Henley.
Oh.
Just an older black actor.
Oh, yeah. First of all, yes, because I didn't have a pitch for this one. And secondly,
really?
That's interesting, because I would love to see his avuncularity, especially if in our remake we turn it to he's not just a kindly old man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
What happens when that guy gets repossessed by a new personality?
Well, in the version we have now, it's like he functions very well, and he in the version of the movie as it exists now, he's a man who's disabled. He's in a wheelchair, but he's like functioning, moving around. He's like, all right, like it's someone who's at the acceptance level with his handicap. And when it's a new personality, I would make it someone who's not at all at the acceptance level, who's still at anger or even denial.
Nice.
And is trying to do things and kind of is taking it out on everyone else around him. I hate the thing of like taking someone who's handicapped and all of a sudden making them not handicapped anymore by just changing their personality, or I don't know, all of a sudden Professor Xavier can walk around. It's so great. Oh, we're in his memories. But I think that for this character, it's not that we're making it so he can walk now, it's that we're at a different level of acceptance of the disability.
Yes.
And I think that would be interesting. Cool. So, are there any other actors, or is it time to move on to writer-director?
Time to move on to the important people behind the camera.
All right. So, why don't you start with writer? Tell me, or first of all, did you have a separate writer and director, or did you have a hyphenate?
Separate writer and director.
Okay, cool. Tell me about your writer.
You know him, you love him, you know he's available. Aaron Guzikowski.
Oh, I don't know him. Tell me about who this is.
Prisoners, Raised by Wolves.
I don't know anything about this guy.
Rationale for him is Prisoners, best Catholic, theologically influenced film I've seen since The Seventh Seal, which ties into my pitch, obviously, but also he's shown a pretty good mastery of sci-fi tropes and noirish inflected stuff throughout Prisoners and Raised by Wolves.
And he's currently working on Untitled Space War Project.
Aha!
And also The Wolfman.
We'll sweep that one under the rug.
Interesting.
Yourself?
Yeah, I never heard of this guy. I went a little bit more A-list with mine. I want someone who has readapted older stories in cool and new and interesting ways, while also being incredibly stylized. Like, we know him as the stylized guy. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I thought it would be really interesting to get the mind behind Pushing Daisies and American Gods and Hannibal and Star Trek Discovery. Brian Fuller.
Okay.
But I love a cool and interesting take. I'm more interested in going with Aaron Guzikowski.
Okay.
I think that is a more interesting choice, and I like it.
Nice. Thank you.
So, let me tell you about my director. You have not heard of her.
Okay.
As far as I know. This director does a lot of her work in TV. Like, she's directed episodes of, like, Wheel of Time and Stranger Things and Westworld and Jessica Jones. But, like, she's become a director after having spent a lot of time working as a cinematographer. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what this movie is like interesting camera shots and like kind of knowing and needing to know what we're looking at and how to frame the darkness in an interesting way. Yeah. Like we need a good cinematographer who's able to like capture nuance within shadow.
Right.
And so I thought having a cinematographer director would be really good. She was also a cinematographer on Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
That alone, yeah. That Laurel in your run.
Because like, and forgive me if any of these are your people, because like some of the obvious choices are like Drew Goddard and Ryan Johnson and even Denis Villeneuve, Denis Villeneuve, because like they all do interesting noir or dark takes on stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like those are the obvious choices. Let me find someone unexpected. So this woman's name is Uta Brieshewitz. Briesewitz. Uta
we'll
Brieshewitz.
Go with that, yeah.
Yeah. And so I just thought something interesting, show us something we have not seen before.
Right.
And that's what we want with The Dark City anyway.
Okay, you gave me Buhagiar. I'll sign off on that one.
Well, I want to know who you had. Was it one of the three people I just said?
Yeah, it was Villeneuve. Villeneuve, however you say it.
I mean, I figured that was like he was basically who I had right up until the last second. Like he's the reason in my list he's the third one, because I was like, who else are you gonna get?
Yeah.
Like he is very good, and like part of me was like, we probably will do that. Like if this was like they needed the money and they were like making sure that this movie like had to get made, it would be Denny, because that's how the movie gets made.
Yeah.
And I think if the studio was completely in control, that would be the best possible option of the things that they would pick.
Yeah, they would bring out Uta for screen tests to try to lower Denis' asking price.
Correct. Or they would just get her to work as his cinematographer.
Yeah, or that first unit AD. Yeah, I picked Denis simply because of the Guzikowski collaboration prior. Because something about what they were able to capture in Prisoners was something I had never seen before. And
yeah.
The thing that's make Dark City special is it's something that most people, self-included, hadn't seen up to that point.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, if we want the guy to make a Muad'Dib, apparently you go to Denny.
Yeah, I mean, you hire Timothée Chalamet and give interviews about how he has very aristocratic features.
Yeah, and we already know that he works with Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, like, if this was truly studio, truly based on the money, that would be the correct answer. But if we want to do something weird and unexpected, not necessarily good, it might not work. But, I don't know. I like veering off the A-list path a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, the correct answer is Denis Villeneuve as the director, Uta Brieshewitz as the cinematographer. That's what actually should happen.
Yeah, as his Roger Deakins, who can make shadow seem like it has mass.
So that's what we'll do. Okay, so let me take you through Dark City 2024. John Murdoch will be played by Michael Fassbender. Dr. Daniel Schreiber will be Ben Kingsley. Emma Murdoch will be Kelly Marie Tran. Inspector Frank Bumstead will be John C. McGinley. Mr. Hand will be Brian Tyree Henry, and Mr. Book will be Ian McDermott. Walensky will be Jackie Earle Haley. Stromboli will be Oscar Isaac. May will be Joey King, and Carl Harris will be Barry Shabaka Henley. All of this will be written by Aaron Guzikowski, directed by Denis Villeneuve, and cinematographed by Uta Brieshewitz. That is Dark City. Connor, you gonna go see this movie?
I'm going to go see it about as hard as the nerds who waited outside to see The Matrix on opening night.
Yeah, hell yeah!
Just terrorizing the poor GKC employee who's waiting outside, being like, "We don't have midnight showings. Go away! I told you."
We will wait until you do.
I'll force you to. I'll be here 24 hours.
Oh man,
you're gonna waltz in for the matinee showing.
Exactly.
$4.50? It sounds like my price. Thank you.
This will be fun. I'm excited. So Connor, thank you very much for being a guest on my show. This was fun.
Likewise, bro. Thanks for chopping it up. This was great.
Yeah, and thank you for making me watch a movie that I otherwise might not have seen, which was also delightful.
We Hellraiser voice. We have such sights to show you, young Sam.
So this movie was
speaking of.
This movie was described to me as like Matrix meets Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I don't watch horror movies, but Hellraiser was playing at a party I was at, so I have seen parts of Hellraiser.
Yeah, the 14 minutes before you, like, I have to get out of here, and you just left the party.
Well, it was one of those things where I was like, I'm going to position myself so I don't see the TV. But occasionally I'd be like, well, there's a person without skin. That's fun.
Yeah, but the person you were talking to is wearing glasses, so you could see it in your...
You're joking, but that is true.
Nice.
Cool. Connor, so before anything else, tell audience about anything that you want. Do you want people to follow you on social medias? Is there anything you'd like them to do? Plug stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a social media guy, so I don't have anything to follow. The only thing I'd like to plug is Half Price Books. I had a really wonderful experience there last week. The workers were oddly knowledgeable and were able to find me $4 copies of Thomas Pynchon. So I've basically just been riding that. Now, that'll tide me over a good month.
And so this is a bookstore.
Patronize...
This is a bookstore specifically in Chicago?
No. They're all around. So like it's pretty much nationwide. So to widen the aperture, if you have discount bookstores, just patronize them because they got a lot of good stuff.
Good. I like that. And specifically in LA, there are a lot of good discount bookstores that you may not have heard of. There's one specifically at Chandler and Cahuenga that I'm blanking on the name of, and I'm going to look up right now because we should give them our business. The Iliad. If you want to support a local bookshop, the Iliad is a really good one.
Are they specializing in like Homeric type stuff, or are they just like, this name is...
No, I just think it's fun, and I think they have like an oceanic vibe printed around the store.
In.
Yeah. If you're interested in following me, I unfortunately am on social media, and unfortunately one of those social medias is Twitter, and I'm very sorry. I'm a late adopter to all social medias, but I should move over. But I'm on Twitter at Sam Gasch, SamGasch, or you can follow the podcast at Ideal Remake on Twitter, but mostly on Instagram, which also isn't great. But you can follow me there. But the best place to follow and join and be a part of the conversation and tell me what we did wrong or what we should do better is to go and join the Dueling Genre Discord. It's great. Or if you're like, I don't really want to do any social medias, but I really want to support this podcast that I love, is you can go on Apple Podcasts and you can leave us a 5-star review. That is how people discover the podcast, and especially because I'm off my hiatus now, like things would have dipped. A review would really help it go back up. So that would be wonderful. Thank you. And so I will end this podcast the same way I end all my podcasts. Connor, what is your favorite quote from the movie Dark City?
I'm being punished, aren't I?
Great. Good.
That's me as doing poor man's William Hurt. I got nothing else. Yourself?
Man, I don't know. It's just a small child growling.
Not when he says kill him, but when he just makes the noise.
And like for some reason, this small child has like weird spiky teeth. It's all very strange.
Wasn't that great?
No, he should not be there. He breaks the rules of the movie. He's just there to be creepy.
Yes.
No, I said my favorite quote at the beginning. We use your dead as vessels.
That was really good.
It's like, oh, okay.
Okay, I didn't think this was the movie I signed up for.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good. I like it. We did it. Podcast.
Thanks, Sam. Had a great time.